Yeah. We get lit, we get fly, we get drunk, we get high, but to the masses, we a podcast called Verified. I'm your host. I am JopauL. We are brought to you by Radio Pushes and Results in No Hype. Make sure you check us out at theverifiedpodcast.com. And for those that are first checking in, the Verified Podcast is the exclusive podcast where we only interview verified artists. So get your blue check up. And right now, we got a very special guest coming all the way in from South Africa. We got DJ Vanilla Nice. I hope I said that correctly because she had to tell me how to pronounce it beforehand, and I'm probably going to butcher it as we go. But without further ado, she represents the account I Still Love Her on Instagram, who I consider to be the biggest podcast promoter out there. So thank you so much for taking your time because I know you're very sought after, especially after you're getting your blue check. So congratulations. Welcome to the Verified Podcast. How are we doing?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. Glad to be here. Cheers.
Awesome. Cheers. So let's jump right into it. So first, congratulations on getting your verification badge. And let's start out the interview, the Verified Podcast way. And how did you get your check? Or I know that you deserve it because of all the recognition that you've got, throughout the industry. But why don't you tell the people how to go about getting verified in today's day and age, if you don't mind? Unless it's a secret, in which case tell me to go fuck myself. And I totally will.
It's not a secret at all. I applied for it through the app. But the thing is, I applied for it so many times over the years that I had kind of given up. I didn't think it was going to happen. And I hadn't applied in, I would say, like 6 months. So I just randomly thought of it. I was like, oh, let me just send off, the thing one more time. Let me fill out the form. And an hour later, I got the notification that it was approved. And I don't even know.
So as soon as you saw that approval, how did you feel? Why don't you let the people know, like mind state wise, you can't just be like, yeah, I got approved. Yeah, no big deal.
No, it definitely wasn't that nonchalant. I was on the phone with a friend, like while I was checking my notifications, and I saw it, and I just started screaming. And she thought I saw like a rat in my room or something. She was like, "What's happening? What's happening?" And I'm like, "I got verified."
Oh, that's awesome.
It was a lot of screaming, a lot of jumping around the room. It was very exciting. Very exciting.
Oh. Awesome. Now, what was like some of the criteria that you needed in order to get verified?
So in the app, when you apply for verification, they really don't ask for much. They just ask for your name, for whatever name you go by, whatever name you're known as. You got to check a category. So for me, I just checked influencer. And they want a photo of your ID. And that's pretty much it. But as far as I know, you do need some press, or at least it's very useful if you have press out there. For me, honestly, I think what made a difference is that so many verified accounts follow me now, and some very big names follow me now. And I think that's probably why I got verified, because it also happened so quickly. Like within an hour, they're not going to be checking press and shit. So I think really it was the quality of my followers.
Okay. All right. Hey, listen, I learned something new every day. And the cool thing was that, I've been following you for quite some time because it's like I've been in the podcast world. And before I was in the podcast world, I was just a fan of the podcast world. And, who better to follow than you, which is basically you cut some would say that you regurgitate content, but you do it in such a creative way that it shows the essence of hip hop. You're not just doing it to like get the views and follows. You're doing it, because you actually love hip hop, which is fucking awesome. So that's why I needed to have you on my podcast. As soon as I saw, the blue check, I was just like, oh shit. I was like, way to go, girl. Congratulations. And do you think that because of your location and what you do in the realm of hip hop, basically, so what I've heard is that you get verified based on like if you're one of the most valuable accounts within your genre, within your location. So do you feel like
Hmm.
where you're located, because it's, I mean, I know in South Africa, hip hop is gigantic, but there's not too many that do it like in terms of promoting and stuff like that. So you think that played
Yeah,
into it?
it could be. I hadn't heard of those criterias yet. I mean, it could very well be because I know in South Africa, on Instagram, there's not really that many accounts that do what I do. And I mean, I'm not originally from South Africa, and I live in Berlin. I've just been here for a while now.
Okay.
Um,
Well, speaking about Berlin, first let me
yeah,
ask before we continue. So is your family from Berlin?
not from Berlin, but Germany.
Germany. Okay. So
Yeah.
as a proud Jewish person, did you have any Nazis in your family?
I don't know. You
Okay,
know,
I'd rather I don't know than know, because I'd be like, oh, click. No, I'm only kidding.
no, I think in Germany in general is such a sore subject that older generation who was alive during that time, I don't think that the majority of them would admit to being a part of it, you know?
For
Uh,
obvious reasons.
yeah, for obvious
Yeah, it's
reasons.
it's not like, yes, I was a proud member of the Nazi Party that exterminated,
Yeah,
millions and millions and millions and millions of people. So
yeah. So I think if that was the case, I probably wouldn't know.
okay, all right. So
I
they so
can
they can
only hope,
let's hope.
but
But listen, based on the fact that you love hip hop, I'm going to say that you didn't have any Nazis in your family. So yeah, so you're cool with me. So
let's go with that.
there you go. There you go. Okay, so let's jump right into it. So welcome to the Verified Podcast. And basically what we do here is we like to take an in-depth look, at our, most valuable people within the industry and respect the tenure of what they do. I kind of consider myself like a mini drink champs, or I'd like to aspire to be, something of that nature, especially because I have so much respect for, DJ EFN and
Yeah.
Noriega. So talk to me, how'd you grow up? So I know you were born in Berlin. So talk to me about little Vanya. Did I pronounce the name right? Vanya?
Yes. But I
Yes.
was not I was not born in Berlin. So
Fuck. Sorry.
I'm from a smaller city in Southwest Germany. But fun fact, the city where I'm from is actually the birthplace of German rap. So
Really?
yeah, so it makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah, so grew up there.
So that was like the version of the Bronx out there.
I
Because hip hop started in the parks in the Bronx. So I
yeah,
guess that.
yeah, it's just very weird to be like thinking, like making a comparison between that city and the Bronx. It's like,
Yeah, I'm also a little high, so I mean I could be totally way off. So
yeah, but I guess in theory, yes. um, but yeah, do you want to know my hip hop story?
yeah, I mean,
Because after
yeah,
that,
we're gonna get into everything. I like to get into the origins of, like, I want people to know, like, where you came from and how hip hop kind of gravitated towards you. So let's talk about, little Vanya, like growing up, like what music were you listening to in like junior high school, or like, as a early
hip
teenager?
hop, hip hop. It started hip hop. I started listening to rap when I was 5. So from there, it was really that's what I gravitated towards. Also, I was a huge Michael Jackson fan. So
As
really,
we
it was,
as we all were.
yeah, rightfully so. So really, it was hip hop and Michael Jackson. That was pretty much it. Those were the two things, music wise, that I wanted
Well,
to hear.
speaking of Michael Jackson, do you think he did it?
I don't. I do not.
Okay,
But
so pushing on. So what hip hop? So there we go, because we love Michael, so we don't even want to elaborate on that. So what hip hop was like the first that you started listening to? Like, what made you fall in love with hip hop?
the first song was by this group from the UK. Their name is Us Three,
Okay,
and the song is called Candleloop.
you're gonna have to send that to
Remember
me.
that song? Yeah, everyone knows that song. So when you hear it, you know it. It's super jazzy. It's like jazz hop. It has this saxophone, like Yeah, it's super jazzy. It's a great song. It was so big. It was a huge song, so everyone knows it once you hear it. Um, and I just remember that was the first song that I recorded on tape. Like I
Okay.
would always listen to the radio on my parents' stereo, and I would just press record when I liked the song, and that song was the one. And then a little bit after that, the next thing I remember was I stole a tape from my older brother, which was the debut album of the first commercially successful German rap group.
Okay. And what were that? What
Um,
was that? What were their names?
Die Fantastischen Vier, which translates to the Fantastic Four.
Okay. See,
Yeah.
I'm a hip hop nerd, but I know nothing. I mean, I guess I can't, wear the title of hip hop nerd if I'm not really familiar with international hip hop. And I feel like I should be because I love music and I love to hear the evolution of how things were,
Yeah.
especially all across. I mean, I have fans all across the world, so it's like it's only right that I embrace, I mean, some UK hip hop I have because from the MySpace days when we were able to communicate, I
Mm-hmm.
connected with a bunch of them. So you're gonna have to send me like a playlist if you don't mind. I know you're very busy, but in your free time, send me like a playlist of like the greatest like 10 or 15 joints that like would be considered like the classics of like, over like across the pond hip hop.
Yeah. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, so you
Um,
stole a tape from your brother. Did he beat your ass for stealing the tape?
no, I don't think he ever even noticed it. I told him when I was grown at some point, I told him, I was like, oh, did you know that I stole that tape from you? But the thing was that my brother wasn't really into hip hop. That was like the only hip hop he had was that album. He was mostly into like heavy metal, hard rock, shit like
Right. I feel like when you think of like Germany in like the 80s and 90s, it's like very like punk, metal, grunge, like
Yeah,
rage against the system type of
yeah.
music. So I'm
Definitely a
so I'm glad
lot
he
of
didn't miss that tape when you stole it.
yeah, I don't think he ever noticed. I don't even know why he had that. I should ask him. But yeah, I listened to that album until I knew every single word to every song. There was like explicit songs on there that I really shouldn't listen to at that age, but I didn't know what they were talking about. So I was just happily rapping along.
Isn't that weird that like the songs that we used to listen to as kids, it's like, we were singing these words, not knowing what they meant. And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
when you're older, I tell this story on a lot of podcasts that, one of the first hip hop that I ever listened to was Ice-T, and because me and my twin brother were break dancers. My mother thought that, when they took us to the record store, they were like, oh, this sounds unalarming. Ice-T, it's something you drink. It's sweet. Yeah, little did they know. We're running around the house, screaming the N word, and all of a sudden they sat us down to watch this series called Roots, which is like basically about American slavery.
Yeah, I
And
know.
trust
Yeah.
me, we never use the N word again. So, so,
That was
so
good
when,
educating. That was good educating on your parents' part.
well, my mom was a teacher for 40 years. So, and they were part of like the hippie peaceful movement and equal rights.
Mm,
So it's like, how dare, their kids, use the N word, but we didn't even
yeah.
know. I mean, in our defense, we had no idea what it was. We were just like, oh, Ice-T is cool. He's saying the word. We want to be cool. We're going to say we were like 7 years old.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. My
so when,
parents my parents were hippies too, by the way.
okay. So there was a
Yeah.
hippie movement out in Germany.
Yeah, my parents met in a hip hop in a hippie commune. So it was you know, the whole nine. They were Hindus for a large part of my life. Yeah.
So did they like the Beatles? Because the Beatles were very inspired by like
I
the
know
Guru and the Maharishi and
I know that my father was very much into the Beatles. I also remember stealing CDs from him, like Beatles CDs.
probably a lot of
I
George
just,
Harrison because George Harrison really embraced the Indian
yeah,
culture.
yeah, yeah.
Once they got a hold of the sitar, that was it. They were like, all right, we got a whole new bag to start playing now. So that's cool. Okay, so your parents met, in a hippie commune, and did they have any problems with you embracing hip hop? Because like hip hop in like the 80s and 90s in America, which because you're a hip hop nerd like me, and I hope you don't mind me calling you that because I wear that with a badge of honor, like a crown. It always had like a negative sort of
Yeah.
vibe to it, or at least the establishment or like the adults were like, no, hip hop
When
bad. And
the media made it out to be very negative. Yeah. Um, in Germany, I don't think it really had that connotation because um first of all, like in the especially in the 80s, like we didn't get that much of the hip hop movement over to Germany. Like you just wouldn't see much of it on TV. You wouldn't get all the news around it. You would maybe get some of the music, but that was pretty much it. Um,
what was like your source of like, how did you get the music? Like, was there like MTV? Was there like a pirated, like cable station that, showed, any of these videos, or was it very just German hip hop or UK hip hop, and you guys really weren't exposed to American hip hop yet?
um, I think my exposure to American hip hop came later. I would say around 14 or so. I think up until that point, I was mostly listening to whatever came across my way as far as hip hop goes. And most of that was German rap.
Okay.
So I remember I was listening to artists from my hometown who were political rappers. Um, yeah, really anything I could hear on the radio, but it wasn't that much. I mean, I remember Tupac. We got a lot of Tupac in Germany. They were playing
Awesome.
a lot of Pac. So it's just the very popular stuff that they would play on the radio. And then when I was a teenager, when I was in high school, I would start exchanging CDs with classmates. We would be like,
Okay.
"Oh, I got this. You got to check this out, and I'll give you this." So that's when I found more of the American hip hop, and then I
Those
just had to.
we did the same shit here. It was like I mean, so I live in New York, so it's like the connections that we would have, and this is like kind of before social media and technology. It was like if you were lucky enough to get that song and be able to burn it to a tape, and
Mhm.
then you could make a mixtape, and you're the only one that had that. You were the fucking man. Like if you had that exclusive that nobody
Yeah.
heard before. So I remember those days.
Oh,
I love those days.
yeah, but we didn't get any exclusives all the way in Germany. And also, I have to add, because the experience might have been different for other people my age, but I grew up without a TV because my parents were hippies. So at some point, I think I was like 5 or 6, they threw out the television, and I didn't have a TV until I was 15. So, most of those years, I did not have television. So even if some of that stuff was on TV, I couldn't see it. So I really had to like once,
Interesting.
yeah,
Very, very interesting.
yeah. So once I started like exchanging with kids in my school, that's when I started going backwards. And I really had to go backwards through the whole history and like find everything and just, work from there.
Yeah, I wish I could get brainwashed and be reintroduced to some of the greatest songs that I've ever heard. So it's like, because it's like almost like a drug, or at least
Yeah.
the way I feel music. And I'm sorry to all my viewers, if I get like nerdy passionate about music, but it's what I do. It's how I get paid. It's, actually what pays the bills. So, and I love it. But it's like, I wish I could basically almost get like my brain erased from just hearing certain songs so I can listen to it again for the
Get
first
them
time,
fresh.
so I can get that high. Like I want to get that first like feeling I got when I heard Do What You Feel by, Redman and Method Man. Um,
Yeah.
or Bloody Money from Capone and Noriega. It's like I would love to get that feeling all over again, like holy shit, like this, or like, I mean, I can go on forever and just name songs and songs and songs. But so you got some Pac in Germany.
Yeah.
When did you really fall in love with American hip hop, and when were you exposed to that? Was that the Napster days when we were able to actually digitally exchange music? Like how did you like give me that story?
Honestly, I don't I don't really know because I think it just happened gradually. It wasn't like one moment as far as the music goes. Like I remember the moment I knew I was in love with the culture as a whole, but with American rap, I'm not sure. I think it just I heard more and more of it and I loved more and more of it. So, it just kind of happened.
And who were like the early groups that you started listening to from American hip hop?
I listened to a lot of Jay-Z. I listened to a lot of Biggie. I definitely listened to a lot of Pac. Like I remember I would make mix CDs very early on. I think my first mix CD, because my parents, my father is a programmer. So we always had like computer technology. We had that very early on. Like we had the internet at home, like very early on. We had a CD burner very early on.
No TV, but you have CD burners and technology. Very interesting.
So the first mix CD I made was in '99, and it was basically, I think, 95% Tupac songs. And it was like 2 songs by somebody else. So I don't even know what I was doing. But that was the very first I ever made, and I still have it. So one day I was flipping through, I was like, what was I thinking with this mixed CD of just Tupac? But
give me three Tupac songs that are on there so I can judge if the mixtape is valuable enough, because I am a diehard Tupac fan.
I have no idea. I haven't looked at that track list in a long time, but it was probably, I'm sure Changes was on there,
Probably.
Get Around was probably on there, I'm guessing.
And then probably Me Against the World.
Yeah, probably.
All right,
I don't know.
I'm satisfied. If you could send that one to me too, even though I probably have all of those songs. Okay, so when did you move from Berlin to South Africa, or am I jumping too far ahead?
Oh, you're jumping way too far ahead. I don't.
Okay. That was my little like backspin on the DJ. Like, if you didn't catch that. So you started making these CDs and you started falling in love with the hip hop culture. When do you feel like the hip hop and culture started to embrace you? Because in those early days, like, I mean, I don't know how it was overseas, but females, they kind of had to be like really in the game in order to kind of be like accepted. It was kind of like the same thing for like, white Jewish people like myself. So I want to know, what was the embracement, of you as a female? And I don't know if I would consider you, white or, German or whatever, but not, in your ethnicity, how did they embrace you in the hip hop culture?
I remember, so I was always active. I was always participating in one of the elements at least. So I think people did see that I was serious about this, because I started out with graffiti, then I became a rapper. I was always surrounded by people that I was kind of working with in that sense. But I do remember so many rap shows that I would go to where there were very few women, very few girls in the audience. And the boys would automatically assume that I came there with my boyfriend, that somebody had to take me there, had to bring me there.
Gotcha.
And there was no way that I could have just gone there by myself.
They didn't know that you were down.
No. So that was something I struggled with for a long time, was just basically boys, men, just not taking me seriously. That went on for a long time. And that still happens to this day. I don't think that will ever go away. It's just that at some point when I had made a name for myself enough, when I had established myself enough with my brand and everything that I do, that's when people were like, oh, okay.
Did you ever get into any situations where, because you are one of the only females there, did you ever get into a situation where somebody would like push up on you in a way that you kind of would not really feel in that way because, I mean, because you're a pretty decent looking woman, you know what I'm saying? And around some like, some thugs, you know what I'm saying? You might look like fresh meat. So
I
would it ever,
mean, look, we're talking about Germany. There's not really thugs there. That's
I don't
one.
know. I mean, listen, I'm thinking there's thugs everywhere, so.
No, like an underground hip hop show in Germany. There's no. It's very soft.
It's
But any
more like backpack rapper type of
very, very much backpack vibes.
okay,
Like
all right.
the first show I went to was Lone Catalyst.
Oh, okay. So let me ask you, so did you push up on any of those guys?
No, but no, listen, the thing is I'm a woman, so that's a given that's going to happen. That happened to me at rap shows. It's happened to me on the train. It's happened to me. It happens everywhere and it happens regularly and it sucks. And especially I don't know if I can say especially because I think it's just that there are more men present in hip hop spaces. So the probability of it happening is higher because you're surrounded by more men. And there were definitely a lot of situations where I was interviewing artists and they would start some funny shit. That happened many times. As a woman in general, as a woman in the world, you just learn to live with it,
Well, that sucks, and
It does. It really does.
So I mean, even though it's not my fault, let me apologize for anybody within the hip hop community that ever treated you in a way that seemed demeaning or demoralizing, and it shouldn't have happened. So and I hope that, when people hear this story, they, take kindly to it and they're like, maybe they're onto something. Maybe we should treat people like people instead of dicks. You always attract more bees with honey than vinegar. Kill people with kindness. So it's like talk shit about them when they leave to yourself, and just treat everyone fair and equally, because that's the way. It's like the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And me, I could speak from perspective, because as a white Jewish person coming up in a predominantly black oriented industry, I had to be on my best behavior. I couldn't be the loudest in the room. I had to be that, cool person and treat everyone equally, because I didn't want them to treat me any differently. So and I came through unscathed. I'm pretty good. I went through some of the roughest hoods, in all of New York, and I mean, I got shot at. They weren't shooting at me. I might have been shooting at other people, but I didn't get hit, so I'm good. so when did you start like enjoying like the podcast world, where you were like, you know what, like I've been seeing all of this stuff, so I need to show people? Or am I still jumping so far ahead? We not even there yet?
You're jumping so many chapters.
All right. All right. So back. So you take me through it. Okay, we're in the stage of hip hop embracing you. You're going to different shows, and you're kind of getting a name in that underground scene. So people are recognizing you, not only because you're a woman, but now you're kind of making waves in that space. So take us through it.
Well, I would say, so this, like the starting going to hip hop shows, that was, I would say, around the age of 16 or so. Then I think I was around 19 when I started. This was Myspace era.
Okay. So around like 98 to 2002, like around that area.
Wait. Nah, like 2003, like early 2000s. Yeah.
I was close.
Yeah. So early 2000s, Myspace era, I started a blog on MySpace, on my MySpace page. And that's also where the name I Still Love Her comes from, because that's what my page was called, was I Still Love Her.
Okay. How'd you come up? What made you come up with that name?
It's just the reference to the Common song, I Used to Love Her. I just really love that song so much. It's one of my favorite songs. And then I always felt like, yeah, but I still love her. And I always will. So
And is her a metaphor for hip hop?
Yeah.
Awesome. See how we put those two together? Love it. Fucking love it. Continue, please.
Yeah, so MySpace, I started a blog, and then I started interviewing artists for this podcast that I was doing. Well, it was first it was a written form, it was for the blog. So every hip hop show I would go to, I would just interview the artists. And that turned into a podcast where I would just air, the interviews basically. I would put some music in between there. And from there, from MySpace, yeah, that just grew. I started doing mixtapes with this DJ from LA. I connected with a lot of hip hop heads through MySpace.
And wasn't that the fucking greatest? It's
It
like
was so
I could
good.
literally talk to everybody. I remember I was the number one unsigned artist on MySpace in the New York
Really?
region for like 9 months. It was a great title to hold. I didn't get paid or anything from that, but
Yeah.
but I mean, but I was in a legendary hip hop group, anyway. So it's like that
Yeah.
didn't matter. I didn't care about getting signed. I was with the people that I wanted to be with. But I
Yeah.
remember in MySpace, it was like the first time that you like can actually like message somebody and they would talk back to you.
Yeah.
It's like I connected with so many people, from that era that I still talk to now. One of the most notable
Mm-hmm.
ones that I can think of is MC Search from the legendary group Third
Mm-hmm.
Base. Shout out to my boy MC Search. And I was under a different name too. So the fact that I was able to hit him on Instagram and be like, yo, I was like, it's your old boy Lyric Enforcer from the MySpace days. I was like, your Jew-Tang Clan brother. So shout out MC Search, shout out to Tom from MySpace. Appreciate you. Go ahead, continue. So MySpace
It
started
was,
connecting with a whole bunch of people.
yeah, it was such a different time because also it wasn't so oversaturated. Like artists would send me their music, but it wasn't like it is today. You weren't getting bombarded. So I made this mixtape series. We called it Digital Underground. And it was all artists that I found on MySpace that sent me their music because there was actually so much dope shit on there. So I was like, oh, I want to put this together. And I asked this DJ that I met from LA, and we're still very good friends to this day. I asked him to mix it for me. I was like, I'm going to choose the music, you mix it, and we have this mixtape series. And we
And,
did this for,
he said yes.
yeah.
Which
We
is weird because there's a group called Digital Underground, as you know.
I know we spelled it different. We
Okay, all
spelled
right.
it different. No, I just felt like it was a perfect name because it was all put together through MySpace and it was all underground.
Makes sense. Perfect sense.
Yeah. And we even met, I think we met for the first time. I was in LA for the Walk for Dilla. I don't remember the year,
Shout
but
out
that was
Jay
the
Dilla.
first.
I caught your DJ set for Dilla Day.
Yeah.
Pretty nice. You're pretty nice over there.
um, but yeah, it's just I'm so thankful for MySpace because so many connections. There are still people on Instagram that we follow each other. We've never met in person, but we're still connected and we go back all the way to MySpace. And it's really crazy. And also all those people have seen my growth. And it's like, it also humbles you to think back like, man, I little MySpace blog.
Very innovative too. Like, I mean, you were in that podcast space before there was a podcast
Yeah.
space. Like you were doing it like basically on the cutting edge. So that's
Yeah,
pretty dope. That's pretty dope. So
definitely.
kudos to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I just did the shit. Like I taught myself how to do everything. And I just randomly would email like whoever contact I can find and be like, hey, can I do an interview? It was very, very DIY, but that was also the beauty of it. There were no rules. I was just like, oh, I'm just going to do this shit and let's see what happens. There was a lot of enthusiasm and those were some really good times for
Tell me
sure.
that's not the best way to indirectly promote yourself. So I had the same sort of thought process when this whole pandemic hit. And yeah, let me stop right there. How are you doing with COVID and maintaining, and how is it out there in South Africa? Because I know that it sounds like it's getting a little crazy. So how are you doing mentally and everything like that? I should have asked you in the beginning. I'm a very bad host. I'm sorry.
I can see why you're inspired by Nori on Drink
That's the Yala right there. Shout out to the Yala Noriega.
Yeah, I mean, so I went back home to Berlin I was in South Africa for 6 months from end of 2019 until late
Hold up.
March.
Yeah, before we get back there, are we talking about COVID right now or are we going back to hip hop?
Yeah, no, we're talking about COVID.
Okay.
It's like the timeline of COVID. I went back home like after the first lockdown happened here. So I was home in Berlin, and then I came back here in November because they opened back up. So the country was completely shut down, basically. And I went back as soon as I could because I wanted to be here. And at first, things were kind of halfway open. Like we could do, I was doing gigs, like the bars were open, limited capacity, there's a curfew. But it was okay. But then right after Christmas, they kind of shut down again. So things have been on hold, but now we're going back to what it was before. They had banned this alcohol sales. And the curfew was very early. The curfew was like 9 p.m. So there was no point for bars to open. But now alcohol.
No alcohol?
Yeah.
Like, so you can't go into a store and buy alcohol?
No.
Wow.
Last year,
that sucks.
2020, the first lockdown, they banned alcohol and cigarette sales.
So you have to be on lockdown, and now you're going through alcohol and cigarette. What the fuck is wrong? Like, I mean, whoa.
It was tough.
And hold on. And you motherfuckers around America want to fucking
complaining.
You want to complain about putting a fucking mask on and you can't fucking eat and dine indoors? How about if we take away alcohol and cigarettes from you, you motherfuckers? Wow. Holy shit. Hold on. I need to light my drink. Continue.
But
oh
yeah,
my God.
But now alcohol is allowed again since a week ago. I'm going to be back DJing this Saturday. I have an event I'm throwing. So I'm very excited. Honestly, I just miss DJing. Like for me, like DJing is not like a big source of income because I have another business. That is my main income.
But it's the vibe. It's one step. It's my
source of happiness.
Yeah, it's like one step shy of being like God. It's like you're controlling the entire place. You basically are filling the emotions of the room. I know because when I perform, it's like I move the whole crowd, and it's like I basically make eye contact with everyone, and it's like they're gonna remember me. So I forgot which DJ said that, that I had on my show with that. Said that, DJing is like one step shy of being like God because you control the emotions of the entire room. So my question, so now are they taking like COVID guidelines? Are they like taking like precautions, or is it just a free for all, no mask, no nothing?
No, there's definitely precautions. The problem is that most people don't want to follow it. There's definitely rules, like you have to wear a mask in public everywhere. If you get caught without a mask, you even risk jail time. Like you can go to jail.
Okay, I respect that.
Yeah. So there's limited capacities. There's still a curfew. The curfew now is 11 p.m. So you can't go anywhere after 11.
Now, will you be wearing a mask while you DJ?
No.
Okay. Now, will you be completely by yourself, or are you going to have people in the DJ booth with you?
No, I don't have people in the DJ booth.
Okay. So you're going to be by yourself and you're protected by like a glass facade, maybe?
No, but I'm basically protected by space.
Okay. And now this is just a suggestion, only because because I'm crazy with it, and I'm sure you've seen, but they do have like these like light up masks, and you could probably brand your name on it, where even if you wear it, it's like basically
Yeah.
branding yourself, at the same time. Just a suggestion.
No,
Only want to
listen.
keep.
No, listen. I'm absolutely for masks. The thing is, if I wear a mask while I'm DJing, it's extremely distracting because even think about when you wear a mask and you look down,
I can understand.
and then also it's just I get super hot while I'm DJing.
I know.
If I wear a mask, I'm gonna.
I feel you. I feel you.
So
I understand.
No, if I had to wear a mask while DJing, I wouldn't do it.
Well, just be careful. That's all I ask, because we lost way too many people in the hip hop culture, and there's so many people that are throwing these like illegal parties, around the Bronx and and Queens and the city, like DM for secret location, and then I see like the videos on my timeline, strippers shaking their asses and all guys throwing dollars. Nobody has, I mean, meanwhile, fucking COVID is throwing droplets. They're throwing dollars, but COVID's throwing droplets. So I just want everyone to be safe, and I want to get back to normal so that, because I started this podcast because I didn't feel like releasing music because it's pretty eerie out there. It feels fucking weird as shit. So it's like, who wants to put out like meaningful music that, you can't go out and shake your ass to? You can't create the soundtrack of people's lives by sitting in a house in pandemic. So that's why I started this, so that I can utilize, my hip hop knowledge and indirectly promote like the way I segued back into what, that whole little rant. It's like I'm indirectly promoting myself and telling my story while learning yours.
Yeah.
So as you're reaching out to people on Myspace, little do you know, you're promoting yourself by actually giving them a platform to promote them. So, and everyone hopes that once the interview is done, they'll actually share it on, their page, and, do what's, reciprocal. It's like people don't know, as reporters, we do a lot of due diligence. I mean, at least I do. I do a ton of due diligence to find out about who the hell am I talking to? Let me have some talking points. Let me at least, not look like I'm bullshitting the whole thing, and let me know like I'm actually engaged, with what's going on. So I go through like a strict checklist to find out who the hell I'm talking to before I talk to them. So it's like I don't want to be like,
what do you do?
Who's your influence? What's your name again? So you're reaching out to these people on Myspace, and now you're getting some recognition because some big rappers and people are hitting you back. So who are some of the most notable ones that you can speak of?
I wouldn't say big rappers because I was very much into like underground backpack type hip hop back then. So most of the people I would interview were in that lane. So like Master Ace or who did I interview back then? Do you gangers?
Say that again, because for some reason you broke up.
Yeah. Do you know the Doppelgangers?
It sounds familiar. I couldn't tell you anything about them though, but the name does sound familiar.
Okay, well then the story doesn't matter.
I know Master Aces. I'm from Staten Island, so I definitely know Master Aces.
I would hope you know Master Ace. I would be very disappointed.
I don't know him personally, but I feel like I do because I've grown up, with his music as the soundtrack to my life, as long as as well as a lot of other artists.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I don't remember from back then, like in the very beginning. I don't remember names right now, but later on, I did do the interview thing for quite a few years. At some point, in one night, I interviewed the Sugar Hill Gang and Curtis Blow. That was pretty epic.
That's what's
I was like, oh, yeah, that was pretty epic. Another night, I interviewed Slum Village and Fat Cat one night. That was nice. I interviewed a lot of people, honestly.
How did it feel when you interviewed DJ Premier?
It's
so far. We just smiled at the same time because it's like that shit's epic. And I just had I just had the rapper Torre
Yeah.
on my podcast, and he has a like some killer joints with Premiere. So he was telling me, a couple of cool stories about how like
Yeah.
that whole thing came to be. And then right before him, I had the battle rapper Cortez, who's huge, in the States, who the first blunt that he ever smoked was with fucking Gangstar. So shout out to DJ Premier. So tell me how that DJ Premier interview came about.
Yeah, it was funny because that one was completely spontaneous. So I wasn't living in Berlin yet at the time, but I was on tour with an artist who I was kind of doing tour management for this tour.
Okay.
So we had a gig in Berlin. So I'm in Berlin, we're just chilling like at the hotel. And then I find out, oh shit, Premo is gonna he's in town tonight. He has a show. So I'm starting to think like, is there any way I could get an interview with him? Like that would be epic. So I think I just put it on my Facebook, like, yo, anyone got to connect to Premo? Or I might have still had to connect in my emails. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But basically, I emailed
this is one of the stories that you have to remember every detail because we need this shit. So we're gonna have to jog your memory. So, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just remember emailing his manager. And I was like, yo, I'm in Berlin. I do this.
Is that Ian?
No, it was Gary. Was that his manager or was it like?
Because I think he's managed by a guy named Ian now.
I'm pretty sure it was correctly. But anyway, that was also a while ago. At least 10 years, I would say.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah. So I emailed this guy. I'm like, hey, is there any chance I can interview Premo? Like, I'm in town, he's in town, blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, I know your site. Let's do it. So he's like, you can go at this time. He's gonna be doing sound check. So you're gonna check him, like you're gonna catch him right after sound check, and you just do it at the venue, like real quick. I was like, okay, I'm there. Like I wasn't living in Berlin, so I didn't know my way around. I actually hopped in a taxi, which in Germany we don't do that a lot because taxis are fucking expensive. But I was like, let me hop in a taxi. I didn't have a big window of time. Like it was really like you got to be there in the next 30 minutes or he's gonna be gone. I was like, oh shit.
Now you worked the camera yourself, or you had someone working the camera?
I had this really, I'm telling you, DIY. I had this. This was when digital cameras were not super advanced yet. Okay. So I had this simple, small, like Sony digital camera. And I just took that with me. It was just me with this little digital camera.
I had the same shit. I'll tell you my story of what I got on my digital camera. But go ahead. Okay, so you only have a limited amount of time from the sound check when he gets off in the actual venue. Now, did you have to like pay to get in, or did they like give you like a press pass, or what happened?
The venue was still closed, so it was this small venue. I think I only went there again one time to see somebody else perform. But so you just go downstairs. I just knocked. I was like, hey, I'm here to interview DJ Premier. And then like, oh, okay, come in. So there was no crowd or anyone there yet. It was the type of situation where they do sound check, go back to the hotel. And that's when the club opens up like later.
Okay. So now, hold on, I'm going to get to that. I want to enjoy this moment with you, and I want my fans to enjoy it. So when you knocked on the door and they were like, okay, who are you? You're like, I'm here to interview DJ Premier. And those words come out. Now, as he clears you, I need to know, when you took that first step to where you're going to go and find Premier, what is going through your brain right now? Because you just said some epic shit. I'm here to interview DJ Premier.
I mean, I was crazy nervous because I also didn't have time to prepare. I didn't even plan on doing this. It was literally from the moment I found out he was in town to interviewing him. It was like a couple hours in between that. So I had zero time to prepare. So I just had to improvise. So I'm nervous as fuck. Like I'm going in there like, oh, how am I gonna do this? What am I gonna say? What am I gonna ask him? It was nerve-wracking.
Oh,
It was bad.
I would definitely be like, I'm hitting the bar first. I was like, I'm gonna take a shot of something or two shots or something, and then I'll be good. Back,
I
Premo,
don't
talk to me about me.
I don't drink when I work. Not even when I DJ. So.
Me either. Listen, I'm as hip hop as they come. If I still like the taste of old English 40s, I'd be drinking one right now. But I prefer to taste the Jack Daniels or ginger ale. So it's just easier anyway. So go ahead. So you're walking to find Premo.
Let me have a sip of this water.
Yeah, it's vodka in there. Don't let her fool you. They just allowed alcohol sales over there. So now you're nervous as fuck, and you're walking. Now do you know your way around this club, or did they direct you where to go?
No, I had never been there. I wasn't even living in Berlin, so it was like, I didn't know my way around. I didn't know this place. I didn't know anyone there.
But they're all speaking the same language as you. Everyone's speaking German.
Yeah. So I think he was still finishing up sound check when I got there. So I just waited there for him, and which gave me some time to like calm myself a little bit, but I was still like, So yeah, and when he was done, he came to me. I was like, hey, and we did the interview, and he was super nice. The problem was it was so dark in that club, and for some reason, now that I think about it, they could have just turned on the lights, but they didn't. So it was super dark, and my little camera had like a light on it that you could turn on.
But it just makes it hip hop though. That's like that grungy, like no, like kind of not the greatest quality because it's early hip hop. Like that's like vintage. It's like it's okay because that was acceptable for the time period, and I think that's what that's the allure of it. It's like it wasn't perfect, but that was hip hop. It was still developing.
Yeah, but I felt very bad for him because he had this light from my camera shining into his face. He was like, and I was like, oh no, but we have to see you. Otherwise we can't see you at all. So yeah, and then I don't remember what I asked him. I mean, that interview is still on my YouTube. I never went back to watch it because I kind of cringe at myself, like watching stuff like that.
But it's great.
So yeah, but it was
you can't. So I say this in all of my podcasts. Like, so no matter how you handled that, it's all a journey. So I say to ever regret a decision made in the past is to not fully appreciate who you are today, and who you are today. You are verified, you are very fly, and you are killing them out there. So from that, that was all
and
part
Premo
of
follows me now. So
that's awesome. He does not follow me yet. So Premo, I love you. Follow me whenever you get a chance, please. I always get like now I'm not like super famous or anything like that. Like I've been around for a long
you're
time.
Breaking up.
Am I? Can you see me?
Okay, I think we're better now. Yeah, it was going all over the place. It was like, yeah.
I can't even pretend like I'm
frozen.
Or
now you froze again.
Am I still frozen?
Okay.
Are we good? I mean, I'm good from my end.
You're mad choppy. You're
okay,
choppy right now.
So all right, let me try to pause it, and then we'll give it a second. So like I was saying, it's really about to embrace everything that you did in the past is all a stepping stone for where you are right now. So so it's a blessing though, because you've come really, really far. So and I watched that interview, and I'm seeing the way that he speaks and the smile that's on his face. So it's like you probably, made an impact on him just as much as he made on you, and just like he made on millions of people. So shout out to Premo.
And he started following me. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Kudos. I always get a kick out of when famous people like, follow me. I'm like this morning, like I had I don't know if you know who it is, but there's a famous wrestler named Randy Orton who has like 6 million followers. He's fucking huge. And I had to like double check. I was like, is this a fake profile? I was like, oh shit. I was like 6 million followers, blue check. He only follows like 305 people, and I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I
It's
was like,
weird sometimes. Yo, Michelle Williams of Destiny's Child follows me.
that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, the quality of the content that you put out is inspirational. It's literally clips of, it's the right clips. Because I mean, with all the podcasts that go on, it's like we can only hope that the people that we speak about on the podcast will cut that clip and then promote it themselves. But you do the due diligence for them and take those jewels and give it to them for them. And you're very active with it. And I see a lot of the podcasters that interact with you, which is great. I see my guy DJ EFN, who's crazy, who definitely respects that you know recycle a lot of jewels from Drink Champs. It's great. And I got to shout out my boy Rome Music, who always talks about you. He always sends me your page, and I was like okay. I was like, I'll follow her. I was like hopefully she'll reciprocate and post one of my verified podcast episodes on there. And then all of a sudden, now you got your blue check and you're fucking here.
I'm here.
Don't you just love technology? Now I embrace it. I'm still one of the old school, hip hoppers that, love being out on the corner, selling my CD, and making that money cash under the table. But I'm embracing technology for all it's worth right now.
I mean, it definitely has a lot of upsides.
Yeah. I mean, we are thousands of miles away and we are having an interview. We did get our times crossed, which I don't. I mean, I'm holding you accountable because I asked you the question. And
so
you
can. It was definitely my fault. 100%.
Yep. Hey, listen, I still love her. I still love her. So how do you feel as like a champion for kind of like a woman in the culture of hip hop right now?
In what aspect? Like, there's so many different.
Like there's not too many that do it like you do and are verified. So when I say you're a champion for the women of the culture, it's like for a lot of years it was a very male dominated space, but we've seen over the years that women have earned a real place in hip hop as they deserve, and women are taking over the American airwaves right now. So, and in terms of like broadcasting and podcasting and promoting, you've in a sense made it because that blue check kind of states that you have, like they have verified that you are verified, that you are verified. So now you need to embrace that you're a champion for the women of the culture.
100%. 100%.
So how do you feel?
I mean, it's nice, but at the same time, it's not, I don't see it as being about me. You know what I mean? It's not about me. I want to see more women out there. I want to see it, and this is not to blame women for not doing it. I want to see more spaces. I want to see more big hip hop pages ran by women. That's what I want to see. Because I think we bring a perspective with us that is very different from the male perspective on hip hop. So that's also that me being a woman is one of the reasons why my content is the way it is, because I look for different shit than men will look for, So I want to see more women in this space. And but it is harder for us. That's just simply a reality. So I get why there aren't more women who are as successful with it as I am, but I really wish there were. And I'm always down to mentor women. And also I really hope I can inspire some women to just go and do the same thing, whether it's as a DJ or as an influencer or whatever, whatever it is. I hope I can inspire some women and show them like, look, we can do this shit the same or better than they can. So You know, you just got to push through and do it.
Love it. Well, what a great answer, and I respect it so much because I love a woman's perspective. I mean, I don't know if because I'm biased because I just love women, you know. So I like to hear what they have to say about shit, and especially when they embrace the hip hop culture. It's like um, I feel like the woman that I marry has to feel music and embrace the hip hop, you know, way of life, or at least some part of it, or else we really don't have that much in common. It's like music is basically the bond that, you know, is going to, you know, be the telltale sign if that's going to be the one who I'm going to be with. So you know, I love, you know, for women to embrace the culture, you know, the way that they do. And I know some very powerful women in hip hop, you know, in the States, you know, and my hat's off to them because they were pioneers, you know, in it. And I encourage everyone to check out my interview with Wendy Day, for the leader of the Rap Coalition, legendary, you know, woman, you know, in the space of hip
Yeah.
hop, you know, for like 30 plus years. And we dropped a lot of gems. And what you just said was, I feel like someone like in the crowd, if I had one, would be like, bars, bars, because that was hard right there. That was hard. So so what do you do now? So tell the people, you know, what it is that you do, because I know that you run a pretty successful promotional company, and you're not just about promoting podcasts. You also do promote artists, and you do have services that you do offer. So, you know, why don't you, you know, and this is, you know, international. So it's not just, you know, your target demographic. It's the fans that you never even knew that you had. So that's what I like about where you're located and how you're actually, you know, implementing these things. So while I take a sip of something, why don't you explain what you do?
So I run a PR slash promo slash marketing agency. I've been doing that for like 10 plus years now. I think it's been 12 years. Um, so basically, artists come to me if they have a new release coming up, whether it be a full release, such as an album or just a video or single or whatever. And I help them get it out there and get it to the, you know, to the right people, to the platforms, but also to fans, to DJs, and so forth. And I also do a lot of social media marketing. I also consult people on social media stuff. And yeah, I just help artists with
It's great
music.
that I have you on here so people can learn your story, because it kind of it validates why they would come to you for those services. It's like
Yeah.
she's been in it for a very long time. She does have a verified platform now. Kudos, you know. So I have to like keep on saying that. You can smile. It's good. It's like the first time I heard my song on Hot 97. It's like I could still scream and yell, you know. So it's an accomplishment. So and the you can see her demeanor. She's probably not a dick to people, so she's acquired all of these relationships over the past 20 some odd years. So you can imagine that the people in her mental rolodex, you know, kind of matter, you know, if you have new music to promote. So I want you to consider, you know, the source in which those promotional services come from. There's, you know, tech gurus that can, you know, throw a lot of numbers at you, but when you actually have the relationships, it means the world. So continue. So let them know, you know, where they can find you, you know, how they can get in touch with you, and what kind of, you know, what's your customer base that you're kind of looking for, so people don't waste your time.
Yeah. I mean, basically, I always, whenever anyone hits me up to work, I check out their music first and I make a decision um if I want to work with them based on, one, do I like the music? And two, do I think this fits my audience?
If you whack, she
Because,
ain't basically. Let me translate. If you whack, she ain't fucking with you. That's it. Go ahead.
but also there might be something that I might like, but where I just feel like this doesn't fit my audience. You know, especially when it comes to like Instagram. I do offer sponsored posts on my Instagram, but if it's, I don't know, some like super trappy shit, I might like it, but I know that my audience isn't really gonna fuck with that. So then I don't want to waste your money. And I also don't want to compromise the trust that my followers have in me, you know?
Gotcha. You don't want to appear to be like, you know, a sellout page for hire, when it's not pushing the culture, it's just pushing, like an artist. So there's a certain
Yeah.
so there's a certain demographic that you cater to. I can respect that completely, because artists hit me up all the time. They're like, "Oh, put me up on your page, put me up in your stories," and I'm like, "Why?" Like I know what my audience likes, and it's like
Yeah.
I can't just force it on them unless it makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you have the right dollar amount, that makes sense. That's totally different story. Then I'll force it on the motherfuckers. I'll be like, listen, check this out, the hottest thing in the world, as I'm throwing that money around. But I have a certain audience that I cater to, and it's like I can't fuck with everything. And what I genuinely like, people might not like. Sometimes I will, say, this is what I fuck with. I know that you guys might like it. So it's like I put a disclaimer out there. So you have a certain fan base that you're catering to based on the years and years of the acquire. I call it the digital Rolodex, basically. Or
Yeah.
your email list and contacts and stuff like that. Okay. So now if they want to get in touch with you, what's the first step?
The best thing is email. A lot of people hit me up in my DMs with business, but my DMs are completely insane. So there's a high chance I'm not gonna see it. So the best thing is email. If you go on Instagram to my profile, askthelover.de, there is an email button on my profile. So just hit that and just send me an email. Put your music in there so that I don't have to ask for it. Just say like, hey, this is what I'm looking to promote. And then we go from there.
Now, would you say that it's advantageous for artists when hitting you up to basically give a range of budget that they have for a certain allotted time? Because
No,
I always feel like it's a weird question to ask, or to just basically give them like an a la carte like service price. So it's kind of like I always tell artists, when you're reaching out to someone, let them know, okay, listen, I have a $300 to $500 budget for the next 3 to 6 months, depending on what I'm getting from you.
no. So I work a bit different than most PR agencies. I actually have a price sheet. I have packages, and you can choose from the packages. The reason why I do that is because when I started doing PR, and this was basically very beginning of Facebook, of when Facebook got popular.
I mean,
Um,
you started in the MySpace days, so don't cut those years off. So
well, the PR, I didn't start doing MySpace. PR came once we had migrated to Facebook.
well,
Uh,
some would say that those interviews that you've done for those select artists is a form of public relations for their
yeah.
audience. So go ahead. I'm arguing semantics right now. So
um, but yeah, so in those days, the reason why I started doing PR was because I was managing a group at the time. And by this time, I had already accumulated so many contacts within the industry that I would send their music to my contacts, like when they had a new single, whatever. And this was around the same time I quit my day job because I knew I wanted to work in music full time. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So one day it just hit me. This was, I think, on month 2 of unemployment. It just hit me like, yo, I could offer this service that I'm doing for the group that I manage. I can just offer this to artists and not manage them, but just charge them a fee for doing this. And so I started with a very simple package, which was just sending the music out to my contacts because I knew that worked because I had been doing that. Um, and then, so what I realized later on, like I never traditionally learned PR. So I never learned what the traditional way of doing it is. I only learned that later, when I was already established. But so this was me freestyling and trying to find a way to make PR accessible to artists who do not have financial backing from a label. So I wanted to offer them once-off packages at affordable prices that are valuable. So that's when that started. So I would offer just these single packages So you don't have to pay $1,000 to get your whole album promoted. You can just pay, like, the cheapest package you can get is $100. Like, you can pay $100 and get your single or your album sent out and get ears on it.
Okay. Don't give out all the source, because I want people to actually go to your site and check it out, because we want that bounce rate to get up there. So we want them to stay on there and actually take a look at it. So basically what she's saying is that she has different promotional packages for different size artists, and she works for the artists that are not dealing with the major label budgets. So she can work with you to a certain extent. No bums. Don't come there with like no money and say, I got 50 cents on a dollar and a dream, and think that she's going to work with you, especially now that she's verified. You're lucky she don't up her prices. So hit her up, quickly before she does. And if you do up your prices, I just want 5% for the suggestion. That's it. But where can they find you on Instagram? And make sure they look for the blue check. I don't know where it's located, but I think it's like over here or over there. So wherever the blue check is located. So drop your handle for them in Instagram land.
It's at istillloveher.de.
There you go. What does the DE stand for?
That's just the German equivalent to like .com. So my official website is istillloveher.de, and at istillloveher was taken on Instagram. So
got it. Because I was trying to figure it out, like. And I didn't want to I wanted to wait till the end of this, just in case people don't watch all the way to the end. So in case that was a stupid question, I just wanted to ask that.
No, okay. a lot of people ask that. It's very common.
Well, listen, I appreciate you taking your time. I'm not sure what time of night it is over there in South Africa. And I do hope you remain safe. And I do pray that we are back to normal very soon. And next time you are in New York, I definitely owe you like a lunch, a drink, a dinner, what your choice. It's not, and I'm not trying to be flirtatious. I'm just as a professional colleague in the journalistic music world, I appreciate your time. And I'd like to leave you with a little quote that I like to end all my podcasts with, that I apply to life, and I hope you apply this to yours as well. We are all just here for a small cup of coffee. I'm just trying to drink it while it's still hot. I am your boy. I am JopauL. This has been the Verified Podcast. Make sure you check us out at theverifiedpodcast.com. We are brought to you by Radio Pushes and Results in No Hype. And we were just chatting up with the lovely I Still Love Her, the podcaster of the podcaster of the podcaster, the DJ, the hip hop, the champion for the women of the culture. So much love and respect. Thank you for your time. Peace and love.
Thank you. Peace.